Hey everybody, back again, and want to do a follow-up video to my one yesterday where I did some debate prep and talked about some of the things I was looking for and some of the big changes that were going on in the Democratic primary on the eve of the fourth debate in Ohio that night. And now being the day after, I thought I would give my reaction and on the debate as a whole, and then also kind of grade every candidate. There are 12 of them. Wow. Still 12 on the stage, and just kind of my reactions and reflections on the debate and everybody in their performance. Because, well, I'm a dork. I like this stuff. So how was the debate as a whole? It's over. And there were no big surprises. There were no big gaffes or huge mistakes that I saw. I don't think it really is going to shake things up or change things really too much. We'll see. But it's kind of just par for the course. You knew that they were going to hit on Trump at every answer. Trump was always the cause of every problem that was asked. Every candidate focused on their strengths. There was a lot of flack towards Elizabeth Warren, who is the front runner now, and that's expected. And she handled it decently. I'll get to that. But no big real surprises, no huge fireworks, although there were a couple times that was tried and failed. And the crowd was very out. Usually, the last ones I've seen, the crowd is always hooting and hollering, or they're intervening and shouting and things, distracting protesters. And the crowd here was very subdued, and it was kind of interesting because the candidates, you could tell, were kind of working hard for some reactions, right? Being overly dramatic and some dramatic pauses and some statements that probably have practiced a little bit, trying to get an audience reaction because it looks good on camera, it looks good at home. And a lot of those lines, a lot of those attempts kind of fell flat. The audience was very much just a participant in this. A spectator, not a participant, sorry. So that was kind of interesting. But anyway, there are 12 candidates, so get into them very quickly. Just going to give them all a grade, A through F, and just kind of how I thought they did, what I liked and didn't like, and kind of where they go from here. So I'm just going to go in order on a list I found on the internet. So first one, Joe Biden, right? What do I give Joe Biden? I give Biden a C yesterday, right? He's sinking in the polls. He's wrapped up in the Ukraine scandal, which was only brought up quickly in the beginning, and no one really wanted to touch that later on, which was interesting, I thought. But he's not the front runner now. His ship is sinking, and I think everyone realizes that. So why waste time going after Joe Biden? If he was the front runner, he's probably maybe lucky he wasn't. He would have had an ugly night, I'm assuming, with his health, his age, some of the other things he's done with working with segregationists and his busing and just whatever. He's a politician with a lot of history, so there's a lot of ways to attack him because of that. Stances he's taken, things he's said, and Ukraine is just another thing. So he could have, like I said, had a bad night had he been the front runner, but because he wasn't, he just kind of wasn't worth it. And a lot of his answers were very incoherent. He looks as old as he is, right? His age is definitely caught up to him. I never thought he was super serious as a candidate, even from the start. I just didn't think. I don't know. I don't think he can beat Trump. I don't think he's up to this. He's a politician from a bygone era, right? And I don't think he's a good fit for the Democratic Party the way they're going right now. Anyway, so he just stumbled and bumbled, and no big, huge errors or mistakes. He didn't contradict himself 30 seconds after stating something. But for him to get any traction at all, he would have to just go up and hit home run after home run. And that didn't happen at all. So just average, which for Biden is, well, just going to keep things going the way they are. Biden gets a C. Next, Cory Booker, right? Cory Booker also gets a C. I'll go C minus, right? You could tell he was trying to kind of be making amends, and he was like the one guy on stage who kept trying and look at the bigger picture and like, oh, we shouldn't be attacking each other, and we're all Democrats, and remember, we all play on the same team. And so that came in a lot of his answers. He was maybe a little more restrained, a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? Not apologetic, not negotiable, not amendable. What's the freaking word? I need more coffee. Peacekeeper? Maybe like the peacekeeper up there? Whatever. But he was just trying to, like I said, kind of kumbaya Cory Booker. Does that make sense? But again, when it comes to his policies, and the one thing I remember that everyone remembers is he's vegan. He made it, hey, I'm a vegan up here. He wanted to bring up his health and stuff like that. I never thought he was a serious candidate from the start anyways. He's like a lot of younger ones. They're kind of running for 2024 if Trump wins again, and increase his own political capital and his standing in the party, which is fine, but no real chance to win this thing. I don't think he ever did. He's just here for experience, and so Booker gets a C minus, right? Next, Mayor Pete Buttigieg. I can't say his name right. Apologies, Pete. I give Pete an A, actually. I've always liked him, right? He's always seemed to be kind of one of the more sane candidates in the party right now. And he's young, military veteran. Yes, homosexual, which doesn't matter. But for a lot of people in the DNC, that kind of does. And to his credit, he doesn't really promote. It doesn't matter to him, which is good, right? Other candidates, they could make that a huge talking point or issue. He's wise not to. But anyway, he's dangerous. I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. He's very well spoken. He's very articulate. He's a young politician who is fed up and delusioned, and he's enough of an outsider, right, not being involved in Washington, that he can sit up there and have a little bit of anger and, just being so tired of the swamp and the system and all these other politicians on stage who kind of represent the old broken ways of Washington and how he wants to change things up. Definitely rising star in the Democratic Party. Outside the big three, Warren, Sanders, Biden, he's probably the closest to a number 4 right now. And if he can make it into that top 3, he could make some waves. I don't think he's going to win the election, though, or the primary, which is a shame, because had he done, he could do very well against Trump, because he's very much the opposite. He's young, he's energetic, he's healthy, he kind of not a businessman, not all the scandals with Trump. He would be a good foil to Donald Trump, because he's different in many ways, and some more than others, right? So very good performance from him. He's always a very good debater, and a lot of people think he did well for himself yesterday night, and now with some flux with Biden's stranglehold gone at the top, I think he definitely moves up and does better. A+ for Mayor Pete. Don't think it's enough, but he definitely helped himself yesterday night. Next would be Julian Castro, D. Again, he's one of those guys, I don't know why he's running. Maybe he's running for like a cabinet position later on or something like that. He just doesn't get a lot of speaking time. He's got nothing really. He doesn't have like a pet platform, or he doesn't have like a pet, not a pet project, but he doesn't have a pet issue of his that he rails against. And he's just one of those guys who's just kind of here to pad this. I don't know if that's to pad this. He's not a real candidate. He doesn't really have a lot to say. Last debate, his main contribution was kind of going after Joe Biden, and now he just didn't really contribute much at all, right? So, like I said, kind of like a D minus for Castro, right? Next, Kamala Harris. I'll give her a D as well. Again, she, I think more than anybody else, wanted to pin every single issue back on Donald Trump and his corruption and his crimes. And Trump is just the cause of every issue that faces our country these days. But again, when it comes to like policies and solutions, she just doesn't have that substance. I know she's got some fans who are very passionate about her, but she is, for like as involved as she is in politics, she's very green. She doesn't have broad appeal, and that just kind of shows, right? She's just kind of very narrow focused on her like base, her supporters and the demographics that like her in the DNC, but I don't think she's got broad appeal. She doesn't come off very likable at times. She's kind of pointing the finger and wagging it and talking down to people and very kind of aggressive in her accusations and the things she talks about. And but you want a politician to fire, but it can come off the wrong way. So she's not. Don't think she was very serious either. She didn't do anything to help her out yesterday, and so what did I say? A D for her. So yeah, whatever. Amy Klobuchar, I'll give her C+, B minus. She's been a non-factor in a lot of these debates, but I think she kind of spoke. Probably, I don't think I've ever seen her spoke as much as in the debate yesterday. She got into it with Warren a couple times, so that's good to see. But again, I don't think she's got a real chance of doing anything here. She's kind of like, I don't want to say she's a no-name, but she doesn't have, again, the broad appeal, the experience on a national stage to compete like this. Like I said in a previous video, senators make terrible presidential candidates because we've only had 3 ever elected to Oval Office. And, because they're focused on their constituency and they're not focused on the nation as a whole. Every time she talks, it seems like she's on the verge of, like, crying. I don't know if she's, like, so emotional. I don't know if she's, like, scared to be up there. If that's just the way she talks. I don't know her well enough. But compared to her other experience, debates, this was her best by far. And she was pretty passionate about a lot of issues. And just kind of the optics of everything was a lot more kind of affirmative, a little bit more aggressive in a good way. And I think she had a strong debate, but doesn't really matter much in national standings because we're too far in the game right now to have her go from like last to first. You know what I'm saying? But a good performance. Beto O'Rourke, I'm gonna go with D. Also, just really quickly. He just seems super nervous every time he talks. I don't just know if that's just his cadence, if it's the sound of his voice. He's also very, very green and inexperienced. And when he talks up there, he just sounds very, I know maybe I'm kettle or the pot calling the kettle black or something. He's just very like unsure, and he sounds very like kind of like he's hyperventilating, like we have to do this and he's just. It just doesn't come off as confident. Doesn't really sound like you know what he's talking about. Him and Buttigieg got into a tussle over gun control, and he's hell yes for taking guns away, which again may play to the crowd, but on a national stage, that's probably not going to go very well. And I think Mayor Pete got the best of him in that. Mandatory buybacks, and that Americans are just going to willingly give their weapons back because they're good citizens. A, that law will never be passed, and B, gun nuts ain't just going to go and give their guns back to the government because they said so. The whole point of having those weapons is to defend themselves against. He doesn't have any idea what he's talking about. So no, sorry. What did I say? D? I'm being nice. He probably deserves an F, but I'll give him a D, right? I'll grade him on a curve. Bernie Sanders, C, just because average. This is typical Bernie. The heart attack didn't really seem to affect or slow him down at all. But again, even though he's in the top 3, he's just kind of coasting, I think, off of his, the last election cycle. Very popular amongst young people. He actually and I'll give Bernie credit. He's honest. Yeah, we're going to raise your taxes, and this is the way I'm doing it. He's very uncompromising, and I appreciate that. But I don't see him moving or gaining any ground in this. He's going to, have a rally in a couple days, and AOC is going to be their special guest, and that might help again amongst the youth. But Bernie Sanders, that ship again has also sailed. It was typical Bernie performance, but it's not enough. Tom Steyer does not get a grade, but he gets a participation trophy. So I'll say one thing. Every answer he gave, it looked like he was making a YouTube advertisement, right? Because he would just stand up straight, look in the camera, right? No deviation, no winking, like very rehearsed answers, it seemed like. And if I was going off of like just the aesthetics of answering, A+, man. That guy's done a lot of YouTube videos. You can tell he's very comfortable talking into a camera. But again, participation trophy. He's impeachment. And I think he mentioned climate change a couple times. I don't know. Whatever. Moving on. Elizabeth Warren, front runner. How did she do? B-. I'll give her B-, right? She didn't have an amazing performance. She doesn't really need to. She's already at the top. Her job is it's like Survivor. She just tries to hang on to that top spot and weather the storm of all the attacks and snipes coming her way. She did all right. I don't think anything really stuck to her too much. She wasn't damaged too much. But being the front runner, you do look at her a little differently now. And is she presidential? And if the election was today, she's probably the one who's going to be running against Trump. Is she, able to beat Trump and give him a run for his money? I think the jury's still very much out on that. I don't see that really happening. Trump is going to demolish her just because he's kind of bullied her in the past. I don't see him changing that now if she wins the primary. But again, she weathered the storm, which is exactly what she had to do. What was interesting though is that she was a lot more aggressive this time, and man, she was bullying those moderators around, right? They were trying to cut her off, and your time is up, and she's like, no, this is important. I'm going to keep going. And she just bullied her way past those moderators and got a lot of extra talking time to get these important points of her across. And that's something you can only do if you're in the top spot, right? Anyone else try that, they cut them off and move on. Gabbard, which I'll get to in a minute. But they gave her a wide berth to make her talking points, to explain everything she wanted to and get her points across. And it's just kind of interesting because you could kind of tell she was throwing her weight around a little bit. Moderators later. Andrew Yang, B+, Yang Gang, right? Here we go. Secure the bag. His little math sticker on the side of his jacket was awesome. I don't think Gang has ever gotten as much time on camera as he did today. He is polling, I know, he's in the top half, I think, because there's 12 among the candidates on stage. And God bless Andrew Yang. He's very much realist. He's got obviously different agenda and ideas than anybody else on stage. And no matter what the question is, he can always bring it back to automation and a job, fourth industrial revolution, and jobs being taken away, and his $1,000 a month, and all the positives that's going to make. Every question came right back to that, right? He's a Bing killer. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, you called out Bing. Like, who cares? I don't know. Awesome. He's shaking things up. You can tell he's having fun up there. And candidates like Yang are awesome because they do help put light on certain issues that would probably never get the time of day before. And Friday, I guess, he's going to be doing a 12 hour live stream where he's just answering questions from people online. That's going to be super entertaining, and that would be, I wish more candidates would do that, right? I don't want to see a live stream of you getting your teeth brushed. Interact with people and do that stuff. So I hope he sticks around, makes it to the next debate. and keeps going around and hangs around as long as he can. Andrew Yang, awesome, and give this guy more screen time because he's interesting and he just doesn't repeat the same old tired cliches and policies that everybody else does, right? So Yang Gang all the way, right? Last, Tulsi Gabbard. Of all the candidates, she's probably the one I like the most on stage. I'll give her debate performance a B. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't terrible. She didn't get very much talking time. She didn't make the last debate, although she qualified, but the DNC was a little worried. She doesn't belong. Here's the problem of Gabbard, right? Of all the candidates on stage, I think she has the most going for her. If you think about it, she is a woman. That's important. Well, it is, right? It is. She's a woman, combat vet with military experience, right? Young. She's younger than me, for crying out loud. She's 38, I think she is, right? But very experienced, especially when it comes to foreign affairs. Very firm in her convictions. Very much wants to get the country out of these tiring, mindless, endless wars. She's not afraid to butt heads with people in her own party. She's the most undemocratic Democrat on the stage, which I think would give her the broadest appeal on the national stage. Could you imagine Trump going against Tulsi Gabbard in a national election, right? Gabbard would destroy him. She wouldn't put up with any of his shit and would call him, and you know that he will, either on purpose or by accident or by slight. He'll throw shade her way, and she will just fucking throw it right back. People would love to see that. I think she would humble Trump quite a bit, and just because, again, he's going to have to be on his back foot around her, right? Because she's not a punching bag, and if he treats her that way, it's gonna. I mean, he's got a reputation already, but it's not going to do him any favors, right? And again, she's experienced. She's got, she's very centrist, which is, I think, because so many of these candidates are so far left in a national election, that should give Democrats some worry. But kind of being the most, like I said, I don't say grounded, the most center, or whatever. I think she has broad appeal when people learn more about her and where she stands, and she's one of those people who is very confident, self-conviction, and it comes off very well, right? She looks like she belongs up there, but I don't think the Democrats want her, and that's the problem, which is unfortunate, right? I'd love to see her go all the way, but I think it's just not time. The party's not ready for her, which is unfortunate because they would be wise to. Highlight of her, she was going after Elizabeth Warren on what's going on in Syria and the mess there, and was openly challenging her on her war stance and her policies when it comes to the mess that is the Middle East. And Warren was kind of in retreat, and then all of a sudden CNN goes to commercial and just cuts off that attack, right? So she tried a couple times, very confrontational, outright calling, I think it was Warren every time, right? Calling Warren out, asking her, not asking, but challenging her to answer a question and where she stood on certain things. Or maybe she did it to Pete as well once. But she, like I said, that's the way she is, right? She's a fighter, and very, very good performance, not amazing. But it's what you would expect from her, and I think she did very well. But I think she's playing to deaf ears in that crowd, in that audience. All right, man, almost 30 minutes. Whoa, what'd you expect? There were 12 of these people, so I got to go. Overall, and I said, but I think Mayor Pete and Gabbard and Yang did the best, and we will see how things go. I think going forward, Warren is just going to cement her status as front runner. As Biden and Biden sags, Warren's going to stay around. It'll be interesting to see if any of these other candidates can kind of come up and maybe take hold of that third place position, because I don't know how much longer Biden's going to have that. Probably Mayor Pete, but I don't know. Maybe Yang catches fire, or maybe more people come to their senses, can't talk, and get behind Tulsi Gabbard. I don't know. I got things to do. I know you do too. I'll catch you later.